So let's talk about radio, old school terrestrial FM radio. Toward the end, I'll get into dealing with satellite radio and even the streaming services, although that might be a topic in and of itself. Let me think about that. For now, let's focus on terrestrial radio. Okay, 49% of people still discover new music on radio more than anywhere else, and that's important because 27% of people surveyed say they find theirs on online streaming services. Now, can these numbers be argued? Definitely. The study was done in 2017. It was done by Nielsen Music, who has a vested interest in keeping radio relevant. And the study only surveyed 1,000 people in the U.S. from ages 13 and up. So sample size kind of small, not a worldwide study. So, take those percentages with a grain of salt, right? Still, though, talk to anyone in the industry and they're going to tell you it's still as important as ever to get your music on the radio in order to garner awareness, especially in certain genres, right? So let's get into each different genre, and hopefully this will help you figure out whether it's time to spend the time and effort and money on terrestrial radio campaigns. Okay, a little warning before I jump in here, especially for the younger managers who haven't really had any experience with radio promotion. There are a ton of fly-by-night companies out there who will gladly take your money, promising to get your music heard by thousands of radio programmers all over the U.S. or around the world. Don't get suckered. Do a ton of research on the companies before you enter into an agreement. Most of these guys just basically have a mailing list of radio stations and might mail your music to radio. As a former radio programmer myself, I used to get a ton of music sent to me from like Joe Schmo Radio Promo, and that stuff would go right into the recycle bin. There's just not enough time in the day for a radio programmer to listen to everything that comes in, so only the music from credible labels and trusted sources really gets their attention. So let's start with top 40 in the pop format, right? So before you go throw good money after bad at a top 40 radio campaign, do yourself a favor and show your artist this too. Go to either fmqb.com or check out MediaBase. Just Google MediaBase Top 40 and take a look at the airplay chart. Have a look at the songs that are charting and notice you're not going to see any singles getting airplay that aren't on major labels or major or larger independent labels. Top 40 radio still monopolized by the major label system for the most part, and you're going to wind up spending a ton of dough for not much of a return. You might say, yeah, Mike, but our song's a smash and it's so much better than what they're playing on Top 40 radio right now. Stop. There are only a certain amount of spots on radio stations' playlists each week to add new music. Like, they literally only have 1 or 2 slots a week. And those spots are going to get filled by songs that are either A, new singles by established artists, B, songs that have been rising up the chart already that particular station is a little late on. Maybe it took a little convincing for them to pull the trigger. Or C, a new song from a new artist on a label that's got a ton of leverage with the radio station. Meaning, for example, like Columbia Records had Adele perform at the WXYZ holiday concert. So they use that favor as leverage to get the new song from their new artist supported by the station. So my advice, you're working with a pop artist, build your story outside of commercial pop radio before you go anywhere near there. Micro market in the artist's hometown. Maybe, if you've got a track that leans a little alternative, maybe send a more left of center, like alternative mix to the local alternative radio station for some local music play. Okay. Cause they're going to be more apt to mess around with, an unsigned act. If it leans a little urban, a little hip hop, same thing. Get that to the mix show DJs at your local station who have a little bit more leeway with what they spin on their shows. Let's talk about AAA radio, AAA and Non-Comm, or adult album alternative and non-commercial radio. These are probably your friendliest formats when it comes to supporting new or independent artists. If you have a list of songs that are available for AAA airplay on the FMQB website, you're going to notice that a lot of them are, in fact, indie releases. Now, while these stations are open to messing around and taking a chance on a new artist, those artists don't immediately get like 40 or 50 plays a week, right? It's going to be more like 7. But it's a start, and the more stations you get to support, the more you'll have a snowball effect because you'll be able to mention the other stations that have jumped on board in your pitches. You'll also need to be able to show some sort of correlation between airplay on the station and sales or streams. Whether we're talking about, old school CD sales in a local indie record shop in the city, where it's getting played, or maybe digital sales through iTunes, streams, or even Shazams in a city, something to show that, hey, when people hear the song on the radio, they react and they buy the music. This is extra ammo to use when you're pitching the song to stations in other markets. Again, if we're talking about a baby band, I'd focus on building outward from their local market. So start with AAA stations in their home city, and then driving distance stations, and then onward. If they're touring behind a new release and you've got a budget, couldn't hurt to hire an independent radio promoter for this format. You'd probably wind up spending between $1,500 and like $5,000. You're gonna need to pay for CDs and for postage. A lot of these stations are still really old school in how they like to get their music sent. So yeah, you're gonna press CDs up, and that's gonna eat into your budget. You're gonna have to pay for postage too. Postage is expensive. Putting a CD in a little one sheet into one of those Jiffy envelopes, it's expensive. It's like, I don't know, $2-3. So that's AAA. Let's talk about alternative radio and rock radio, okay? These formats, similar to both Top 40 and AAA in that, A, they only really have room for 1 or 2 official ads to their playlist per week, so it's tough for an independent artist to get in there. Again, have a look and show your artist the media base or the BDS charts, and you're not going to see very many unsigned artists like on the top 40 most played, right? Also, look, if you do get into some sort of regular rotation, congratulations, but you're probably only going to see 1 or 2 plays per day, and they're probably going to be at like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So, thing is though, both alternative and rock radio programmers, they're actually really approachable. They're in it because they love music, right? So do your research, find out if your act's local station maybe has a Sunday night new music show or a local music show that airs on the weekends. Start there. Become buds with the host of the show. More often than not, the hosts are like the music director at the station, and their Sunday night new music show is like a passion project for him or her. Now, if they hear it, they start playing a single. Again, how do you parlay that? Well, you share it on the socials. You send them a note, send them cookies. See if they'd like the artist to record a special station ID. For the show. Hey, we're the dipshits, and you're listening to the new music show on WXYZ. That kind of thing. Do whatever it takes to really parlay those specialty spins into more specialty spins. There is an alternative specialty show chart that tallies spins from new music shows each week. The trade magazine FMQB publishes it. It's called the Submodern Report. And there are some decent indie radio promoters out there that focus purely on alternative specialty shows. Sometimes these companies even work college radio. Again, I can do a private consult and tip you to some of these folks. I also list them on my Music Marketing All-Stars sheet that you can download from the Teachable page. All right, let's talk about country music. I will admit, I know the least about country music as a format, but what I can tell you is this: those stations run just like Top 40 and pop stations. Super tight playlists, highly repetitive, and for the most part, major label only. So you're going to need to build your artist's story elsewhere before you attempt to go here. Build up the Spotify plays and, spend time pitching to the country playlisters there. Do some serious micro marketing in your tour markets. If you've got someone helping with tour press, maybe you have them reach out to a local country radio station about some sort of, I don't know, maybe you have the band, the band or the artist do some sort of charity performance while you're in that town. So the radio station could potentially get involved with it, right? If you've got a budget for music videos and, you manage a country artist, CMT, Country Music Television, is actually very, very supportive of independent artists. There's a woman over there by the name of Leslie Fram, a good friend of mine, and she runs the music department. She's a huge music fan, has great ears, and she's one of the nicest people in the music industry as well. So she's a good person to befriend, but also not be a pest to, okay? To sum up, country radio, radio should be your absolute last place to try and market your artist's new music. it just is what it is right now. AC and hot AC. Here's another one. You should look at those Mediabase and BDS charts. You're not going to find a single unsigned artist on there at all. These are both hit-based formats. So, meaning these are the stations that play, greatest hits of the 80s, 90s, and today. So they're not stepping out and championing anything that doesn't already have a massive story, at either another format or a massive story off air, right? These two formats, along with Top 40, are the ones that you still really do need to have a major label for, because you kind of need to get blasted out of a cannon with money at these formats, okay? Urban and Urban AC, basically I'm lumping in all of these stations you might hear called hip-hop and R&B, classic R&B, old school hip-hop, slow jams, gospel, smooth jazz. According to Mediabase, who creates the charts, all these stations are separated into either urban, urban or urban AC, urban adult contemporary. Okay. If the stations are gold based, meaning they're like classic R&B or old school hip hop, obviously, forget about it. Don't waste your time. They're only playing old music, right? Common sense. But with the more current based stations, the ones where you'll hear all the new stuff, all the new hip hop and R&B, you've got a shot there, kind of, sort of. While these stations will step out on new independently released music, it's almost always from a locally based act with a lot of noise on the street and on social media already, or maybe the artist got a cosign from a higher profile act. Your best bet here, if you're repping a hip hop artist and you've got lots of other stuff going on, maybe you've got some major SoundCloud mixtape plays, local club spins, get the music directly to the DJs at the station. Maybe don't even focus on the program directors or the music directors just yet. Go straight to the DJs who do, the noontime mix shows or whatever, because they've got a little bit more leeway as to what they can put on the air. And if they like it and they play it and they get a good response, they'll certainly walk it into the program director's office for you. So that's the way to go for the hip hop and R&B type artists. Briefly talking about satellite radio, Sirius XM, to be specific. There really isn't any other satellite radio, is there? So Sirius will, in fact, support your independent artists. They kind of pride themselves on being first to champion new music. A little tougher on the pop side of things, of course. But even for example with country, they broke Florida Georgia line, before they had anything else going on. They were the first to really step out, and that's country, which is normally a really tightly wound, small playlisted format. But Sirius loves to support. Especially if you're an alternative act, you're a hard rock band, if you're a singer-songwriter, hip-hop acts, even electronic artists, you can all find some sort of home on Sirius XM. Like I said, the format programmers for each of the channels, they really do. They pride themselves on being the first to champion new music and new artists. And you should really take advantage of it. But look, do your research. Do you manage a country artist based in Nashville that leans a little bit more old school country? Just research, man. Google Sirius XM Highway Program Director. Oh, look, it's J.R. Schumann. Now let's Google contact Sirius XM J.R. Schumann. Oh, look, there's his Twitter account. We're getting closer, Or here's a little trick, and don't tell anyone I told you. Go on to allaccess.com. Set up an account. It's free, and use their directory. Every radio programmer in the country, not just the programmers at satellite, but every program director and music director at every station in the entire U.S. has all of their contact info listed there. Again, don't tell anyone, but there you go. Anyway, look, in reaching out to the Sirius XM guys, send a quick note with a quick pitch. Find out how they like to receive music best. Don't just attach this is common sense stuff too. Don't attach a bunch of big WAV files or MP3s. Follow up a couple weeks later. That's it. these folks are really responsive. They're really professional. And if you're not a jackass and your artist is actually good, you're going to get some support there, and you're going to be able to parlay the Sirius XM plays into awareness elsewhere, either at local terrestrial radio, blogs, or even attention from agents or film and TV music supervisors. So good luck.